Welcome to the April 27, 2023 City of Glendale Audit Committee meeting. For public comments and questions during the meeting, please call 818-937-8100. Public comments on a specific agenda item will be taken when the agenda item is discussed. Roll call, please.
Committee member Edwin Belen. Here. Jack Mavian.
Here.
Thomas O'Shaughnessy.
Here.
Alex Parajon is absent, and Ed Kashadurian.
Here.
Next item.
Item number 2, business agenda. A, report of recording secretary regarding posting of agenda. The agenda for the April 27, 2023 Audit Committee meeting was posted on April 24, 2023 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. Item number B, appreciation ceremony for outgoing Audit Committee chair.
So, as you all probably know, that our former long-term Audit Committee Chair, Mr. Zaria Amirian, has recently been appointed to serve on the Transportation and Parking Commission. So we would like to present you a service award, and then to invite you come up to say a few words. Yeah. There's a special flag that generally city make it for the long-term city employee, very long-term, like 25. I'm not qualified. So we would like to present it to you for your long-term service on the committee. It says, in sincere appreciation and gratitude for over 13 years of dedicated service to the City of Glendale Audit Committee from November 24, 2009 to April 4, 2023. Thank you. So, wow. Well deserved.
Thank you. This was unexpected, but thank you. Members of the Audit Committee, city staff, members of city management, I stand before you today with mixed emotions. It is with a sense of accomplishment and gratitude that I move on from my role on the Audit Committee for the City of Glendale after more than 13 years of service. As I do so, I would like to take a moment to express my sincere thanks to all those who made this journey possible, and to pass on the torch to the capable hands of my successor, Edwin Belen. First and foremost, I want to express my deepest appreciation to the internal audit staff, Jesse, Natalie, Ani just stepped out. Your dedication, professionalism, and commitment to the audit process have been the backbone of our work together. Your vigilance and expertise have made a significant positive impact on the City of Glendale, and your continued efforts are essential for maintaining the already excellent efficiency, integrity, and accountability of our city's operations. To the city management and staff, especially Principal Assistant City Attorney Lucy Varpetian, Director of Finance and Information Technology Jason Bradford, and of course, Assistant City Manager John Taftalian, and all of the department directors that I have had the pleasure of interacting with throughout my time here, thank you for your collaboration and support. Your willingness to engage in open communication and work cooperatively with the Audit Committee has been instrumental in our ability to effectively execute our oversight and help ensure the continued proper management of city resources. Edwin, welcome to the Audit Committee. I'm confident that you will find this role as fulfilling and rewarding as I have. Your experience and passion for public service make you an excellent fit for this position. And I look forward to seeing the continued progress of the committee with your input and possibly eventually under your guidance. To my fellow committee members, both current and past, some of you both current and past, it has been an honor and a privilege to work alongside each of you. Your dedication, insight, and camaraderie have made these past 13 years an unforgettable experience. I am proud of what we have accomplished together, but I know that there's still much to be done. I charge you all to continue the vital work of safeguarding the City of Glendale's resources and ensuring the continuation of our Jewel City's high levels of transparency and accountability. As I move on to the Transportation and Parking Commission, I carry with me fond memories and deep gratitude for the continued opportunity to serve this great city. I am confident that the Audit Committee will continue to thrive and make a difference in the lives of Glendale citizens. Thank you all, and best of luck in your future endeavors. Protocol, enter the well and shake some hands.
Congratulations.
Do we have an opportunity to make a comment?
Yes, please.
Mr. Amirian, before you leave, just wanted to take a minute and thank you very, very much for the service. Of all of the people here today, I think I have served the longest alongside of you on this committee. So I just wanted to say a very couple of sentences. I always appreciate when I have an opportunity to learn from someone, and definitely, the time that I have spent alongside of you in this committee has been a very rewarding time in the sense that I was able to learn the way you have handled the meetings and managed everything. I truly, truly appreciate all that you did, not only for our community, but on a personal level. So I just wanted to say thank you to you.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you.
Okay, I'll stay here. Thank you very much, Azari, for your kind remarks. It's been such a pleasure working with you for the past 13 years, especially since 2017, when I started to lead the internal audit team. At that time, you have been the audit committee chair for a couple years, and so you provided guidance and brought me up to speed, so I greatly appreciated that. Since then, we have developed a very good working relationship to ensure the success of this committee. You are always so quick in responding by email, approving agenda, and providing feedback on any audit-related issues. You have done such a wonderful job to lead the committee by running the meeting very effectively to ensure the committee stays focused on carrying out its responsibilities. You have been very supportive and open-minded. Under your leadership, we implemented paperless meeting back in 2018, and I think we're the first committee started to run paperless meeting in order to improve efficiency and be environmental friendly. And also under your leadership, and of course with the support and the dedication from each members on this committee, the audit committee didn't have to cancel any meetings in the past 5+ years, including during pandemic. Even when we had to switch between in-person and virtual or hybrid meeting, and especially when we have hybrid meeting as chair, he always had to be on site and then working with a few city staff to make sure we run the meeting smoothly. So in preparing for this agenda item, I asked my team to describe you as our audit committee chair, and some of the words came to mind are accountable, approachable, confident, dedicated, a leader, supportive, well-spoken, and thoughtful. So what I appreciate you the most is your sense of care. You care about improving city operations. You care about the effectiveness of the internal audit functions. You spend time to learn how we automate audit process to be more efficient. and in order for you to gain a deeper understanding of what we do. And ultimately, you care about the Glendale community and the quality of life of the residents here. And that is exactly what we are all here for. So you have made our job as city staff support to the audit committee such a pleasant experience. On behalf of my team, I thank you for your service, support, and the leadership. We would like to wish you continued success in your new role with the Transportation and the Parking Commission. Best wishes to you and your family, and you will be missed.
I believe we have some speaker cards for you.
Okay, so.
Item number 3, oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes. The committee may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The audit committee chair may refer the matter to staff for investigation and report.
Should we move?
So if it would please the commission, perhaps we can move up item number, so there are no cards with regard to oral communication. So we don't have no members of the public here to speak, and we don't have any callers as well. So that item is concluded. We'd like to move up action item number 5, the election of audit committee chair. As we just stated, with the departure of our past chair, there is now a vacancy, and anytime there's a vacancy, there would be a vote by the committee members to elect a new committee chair. So I would ask that we move up that item so that we could address that next. Could you please read that into the record?
Item number 5, action items. A, election of audit committee chair.
So at this time, we would open the item for discussion and for nominations.
Could I ask the 2 ongoing members, since I'm a retread, I'm back, and he's here, how long each of you have been on?
This is my 8th year on the committee.
This is my 3rd session on the committee.
Okay.
And we also have committee member Alex Parahone. He was not here today because of an illness, and I don't know how long he's been on. I don't know if we are able to, I might be able to respond to that question.
He was appointed in 2015.
As well.
Right, so, yeah, he was appointed in 2015, and then again in,
8 years.
he may be actually on his 3rd term.
He has to be reappointed.
He was appointed in 2015, again in 2017, and now he's on his 3rd term, which started in September 2022 and will conclude in 2026.
Ms. Warpatian, if I may, can I ask to please postpone this the election of audit committee chair until our next meeting, when hopefully we'll have all members here?
We can certainly do that. There's no issue with doing that procedurally. One thing that we can do is identify one person who can run the meeting for today. So you may wish to entertain a motion to address that. Is there any one of you who would like to run the meeting today?
I would second him being the pro tem. Since he brought up having a motion to delay it for a meeting so that we have everyone here. So if you don't mind me modifying your motion to say,
Sure.
we're waiting a meeting and we're asking you to be pro tem, I would second that.
Thank you. I think technically somebody has to, move on like an item to.
I think he's saying, he's concluding that what you said was the actual
Oh, the
motion, and
motion,
he's now
okay.
seconding
Sure.
that. So
But then now we have to vote on it. So-
Yeah. So I think the motion is that we would
I would second that motion.
postpone the election of the chair to the next meeting where we would have a full panel of committee members, and also to nominate committee member Khashadurian to preside over today's meeting. So I think that was the motion, if that's what you made, and then the second, I think, came from Mr. O'Shaughnessy, and then maybe a third as well. So I think you're getting overwhelming support for that.
But are there other individuals who would like to maybe carry the torch for today?
I think it's you, Ed.
Okay, so we'll just call it for a vote. All in favor of that, say aye, please.
Aye.
And no abstentions, or no, any noes or abstentions? Okay. So it's unanimous. Thank you. So now we would just pick up from where we left off on the agenda. We would move to item number 4, and let's read that into the record.
Item number 4, approval of minutes. A, minutes of the Audit Committee meeting held on January 26, 2023.
Okay, I think we have a slight issue here because of the individuals who were present last time. We have only 2 members here, right? And
We do. So what we would do in this particular instance, because, well, let's see. At the next meeting, we would in fact be able to vote on this, so we could put this matter over to the next meeting as well. Because I think with the replacement of Mr. Amirian and Mr. Bain, we would still have 3 individuals who would have attended that meeting and can vote on it.
okay,
I would agree, because I'd be abstaining because I wasn't present at the last meeting.
even though technically I think
If someone has watched the meeting and would be able to vote on the accuracy of it, then we can take this item up now. Otherwise, we'll just put it over. We'll just put it over to the next meeting.
so. Let's move to item number 6, reports.
Item number 6, reports and information. A, internal audit activity report as of March 31st, 2023. Jessie Jung, internal audit manager.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and Audit Committee members. This afternoon, I would like to provide you a report on the internal audit activities for the quarter ended March 31st, 2023. I will go over each of the 7 sections outlined at the beginning of this report. I will also pull out the report on the big screen so we can all follow along. So section 1 is a list, provides a listing of projects that we have completed during the past quarter. We have prepared 2 PowerPoint presentations for you this afternoon. The first one is the Shoal Canyon Landfill JPA host fees and the lease payments audit. So this first this audit is completed by our senior internal auditor, Ani Antonishan. By the way, Ani has been recently promoted to senior internal auditor. Before that, she also received her certified internal auditor certification. So really proud of her.
Congratulations.
Should I go present?
So with that, let me bring up your PowerPoint.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Ani Antonesian, Senior Internal Auditor within the Internal Audit Division. Today, I will be presenting an audit recently completed on the Shoal Canyon Landfill JPA, Joint Powers Agreement. So this Joint Powers Agreement actually dates back to the 1950s. In its most recent form in 1997, the City of Glendale, County of LA, and the County Sanitation District Number 2 came together again to continue operating the landfill at Shoal. There are many provisions to this contract. In this audit, we focused on the revenue share items, or revenue items in general. So there are many materials that can be sent to the landfill. This table here, I don't know if you can see, but you can take many items, so like inert waste, your regular trash, bulky items. They also have an uncontaminated green waste and food waste program, tires, asphalt, dirt, and one of the highest cost items that you can take to the landfill are, for instance, green waste, because it has high processing cost. The landfill, the sanitation district sets rates to be able to take these materials. So one of the major sources of revenue are the lease payments, because the sanitation district operates the landfill on partially city-owned land. So per the contract, the district pays the city quarterly 40% of gross receipts. And the gross receipts are defined in the contract as all of the amounts that customers bring into the landfill, and what are not included are diverted materials. And so those can be anything that is deemed, basically doesn't end up in the landfill, they deduct from the gross receipts. So for instance, green waste doesn't go to the landfill, it is processed further. So they deduct that from the total. And then fees and taxes are also not included. In the recent completed fiscal year 2022, the city received $7 million in lease payments. The second major source of revenue, and this isn't per se per the contract, but it is tied to the Glendale Municipal Code, and it has to do with the landfill, and we received this payment from the sanitation district because it is a city-imposed fee. 25% host fees apply to all of those landfill rates that I just showed you. Of course, because Glendale imposes this fee, city-owned and operated trucks are exempt from this fee. And also dirt transactions are exempt from this fee as well. In the recent fiscal year, the city received $4.7 million from these fees. And I'd like to kind of take you through the invoicing from the district to the city, because we have a minor finding on this. So as Glendale owned operated trucks take materials to the landfill, they receive a weigh receipt. And as I said, Glendale is not supposed to be charged host fees, but they are initially assessed this on the weigh receipts. After that, the district invoices us on a monthly basis, and we pay the initial host fee, and then it's only on a quarterly basis that we receive these host fees back as a host fee reimbursement. The objective of the audit was to determine whether the city is receiving the right share of revenues based on the JPA, and our scope focus were the host fees and the lease payment. The steps we took to complete the audit are review the JPA agreement for key terms related to revenue sharing. We did detailed interviews with district staff and the city. We performed detailed test work on the lease payment and host fees. Our test period was April to June 2022. And we also performed detailed tests on a recent $3.3 million host fee reimbursement from the district to the city. To summarize, the four key areas of the audit are the lease payment, the host fees, invoicing, and a transactional rounding practice that we noted that the district was doing. So we can look into the finding one, audit result one. This has to do with the lease payments. So as I said, this is a major source of revenue for the city from the district, from the landfill. And when we're looking at the statements, the lease payment statements that are sent from the district to the city on a quarterly basis, we were noticing deductions, those diverted materials. And they were not necessarily clearly presented on the statement. So you couldn't just take a look and say, these are the appropriate deductions and find out if they're correct without having detailed transactional support from the district. So upon asking for detailed support, we found in a major finding that the green waste category was being double deducted. And at this point, our recommendations are clarifying the deductions to ensure that they're accurate from the gross receipts. And also regarding the double deduction issue, the city and district are currently working to resolve this. Because we found these errors within the lease payment, we recommend establishing strict periodic review from the city side, and also working with the district to get these detailed reports to be able to ensure the accuracy of this lease payment. The second finding has to do with the host fees. So as I mentioned, Glendale should be exempt from these fees, but we did note that as trucks are pulling in and bringing receipts, we are initially assessed this fee, and that goes against the municipal code. So our recommendation is requesting the district to not assess this fee to begin with, so that we don't have to wait a quarter to get the money back. And also there is a long-standing agreement that dates back to the 1990s where the city and the district had a verbal agreement to not charge host fees on dirt transactions. So every time dirt from any customer is dumped at Shoal, we don't get the 25% host fees from that material. So because context may have changed since the 1990s, we recommend that the district and city reevaluate this verbal agreement and perhaps start assessing the host fee on dirt. In a very minor finding with no net fiscal impact, but it does have impact on the way on the city's funds. We noted that as the way the host fee payment is calculated, the treatment of the Glendale's dirt transactions was not per the contractual or agreed upon practices, and so to correct this, we recommend that the district follow agreed upon procedures and exclude Glendale dirt from these host fees. And of course, obtain, again, detailed transaction support to perform review of these host fees as we get them. There's also a finding we have on invoicing. So as we were looking at the invoices from the district to the city, they didn't necessarily have a detailed breakdown, so that if you were looking at the invoice, you could tell what is the transactional unit rate that's being applied, what are these 25% host fees. So we recommend that the district provide more detail to allow for more effective review through the invoice. And as I said again, regarding these host fees, they are being assessed, and if Glendale continues being assessed these fees, that they should be exempt. We at least request that the district apply these reimbursements on the same invoice, so we don't have to wait a quarter to receive this reimbursement, and also monitoring these reimbursements on our invoices to ensure that we are receiving this revenue. And finally, the last audit finding has to do with a rounding practice. So as we reviewed over 50,000 transactions from the April to June 2022 period, and these are all of the transactions from the landfill, we noticed 38% of the cash transactions were being rounded. When we asked the district, they said it was due to coin shortage. And we also noted very few transactions that were by check and credit card that were also being rounded. And so the recommendation here is to just ensure to provide transparency to customers on the receipts to note that there is transactional rounding happening. So these are all the findings we have, and this concludes my presentation. We have representatives from Finance and Public Works Department, and I would like to thank all staff for their assistance to us during this project, and we are all here to answer any questions that you may have.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Antonessian. I'm going to now open it up to my committee members if they would like to ask any questions.
On the green waste, you talk about double deduction. Can you explain in a little bit more detail how that works?
Yeah. So I think to provide a conceptual example, so gross receipts, let's say, we have $1,000 in gross receipts, and we have a green waste deduction category. Let's say it's a few thousand tons, and it's $200 of a deduction. So we noticed it was off of the $1,000 example, if it was to be done correctly, it would be 40% that we would get off of the 800. But we noticed it was 40% off of 600, so it was double deducted. So it was $400 instead of $200. Let's say if it was for the green waste, the total revenue should have been $200.
So they always double deducted for the green waste?
Not always. I think the district is currently analyzing exactly how far to go back, but I do believe it was around 2 years of, incorrect
So
deduction.
whenever they started some system change for 2 years, that's been happening?
That's right, when the Green Waste program started, I believe. I would go back to then.
Thank you.
You said rounding, up or down? Are you talking about pennies and everything to that side? So if it's $147.50, it's either 148 or 147? Which way is it rounded?
Right. So it is up or down to the nearest dollar. There was very, very minimal fiscal impact to this. That's why it's not a priority one issue.
Thank you.
When you say the deductions weren't clear on the invoices, can you go into a little bit more detail on that as well? So does it mean that when you looked at the invoices, you couldn't determine what the amount should be? Or did you have to look at like further detail that they might have provided after?
That's right. So these are not actually, they do not appear on the invoices. These are the quarterly statements that we receive along with the check for the lease payment. And you're exactly right. It would be, you would have to have detailed transaction report to be able to connect the class of the transaction name and to understand. And some of these deductions were lumped into categories that may not have necessarily matched the transaction detail report. So what I'm saying is it wasn't a transparent, like you can review it within 5 minutes and understand these are the deductions. And that's why it hadn't been caught, because they were lumped under, sort of say, different categories.
Okay, but does that mean you're going to get a much more detailed invoice from them so that you can do that 5-minute?
That's correct. The recommendation is to match the class, the deduction name to exactly how it appears on the transaction report, so our staff can do a quick review and understand these are exactly the categories that should be deducted.
Great, thank you.
So that mechanism of itemizing those invoices, that's already began, or?
The district and the city are working toward resolving these recommendations.
Thank you.
So who was the beneficiary of the lost $200 out of 200, 400, 1,000? Did it go to the city of LA, county of Los Angeles? Where did the money end up going, since it didn't come to us?
Right. So contractually speaking, the direct beneficiary would be the county sanitation district number 2. Per the contract, all of the amounts eventually end up in a county trust fund.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Is there a way to recover any of those funds?
Yes, and I think, as I said, city and district are working toward resolving that. If any underpayment that the city may be owed will be implemented hopefully soon.
Did you get any more clarification as to why they were not crediting us until the end of the quarter, but charging us every month? Was it like a system thing that they needed to do it that way, or?
I'm not sure we resolved to the root cause of why the reimbursement was coming to quarterly, but I know that the district is very amenable to just not charging the host fee to Glendale to begin with, so we won't be having any reimbursement issues at all going forward.
Based on what you tested, did you make sure that what they charged us was credited, though?
What do you mean?
So if they charged us $100 for 3 months, but that when we got it at the quarter, it was a negative 300?
It was accurate for the sample period that I reviewed, so April to June it was accurate, yeah.
Were they getting interest in the months off the quarter? So in reality, the money that we should have been able to invest or get interest or give to Rafi to do his wonderful work for the city of Glendale, was the county getting that money so that what we got was the flat net fee, but we did not get the positive contribution of the interest?
I think that would be implied,
It's a cash flow thing.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but the reimbursement was not that substantial.
So I have a couple of questions, and mostly for clarification. I'm assuming there's a standing contract between the district and the city of Glendale, and when was the last time it was reviewed or revised? do you have any idea of whether or not this is like in a month-to-month type of thing, or, you enter into an agreement and then it expires, you renew the contract?
Yeah, so this newest form of the contract began in 1997, and I'm looking at exactly when it's, I think, Maurice, would you care to elaborate on this?
Hello.
My name is Maurice Oltiguera, Environmental Administrator. So to answer your question, the contract has a 5-year renewal provision that automatically renews every 5 years unless one of the parties wants to cancel, which you have to give 60 days notice. So this contract it was signed on October 7th, 1997. So in other words, I think last year was the last renewal, so it'd be 60 days before that, we'd have to give notice if we wanted to cancel. So basically, we could just say it renews October 7th, every 5-year rolling period, unless there's a 60-day cancellation.
But does the city even have any options to go with someone else, or?
I mean, there's several different options. There's lots of private companies run landfills. In one example, waste management. So there are options to have someone else run it. However, this particular case, the sanitation districts have been running it since 1960 when it opened. So there are some operational advantages by having them continue that relationship. And we're nearing the end of the landfill life. So there's some advantages, but you're right. In 5 years, if we want, well, actually 4 years, right? From this October, we could evaluate other operators if we want.
And thank you.
Has there been any discussion, even preliminarily, that at some point, the dump that the county controls in Imperial County, but they keep saying they can't use because the trucks cause too much pollution going down the freeway, at some point, that's going to be an active landfill. Has there been any adjustments made or any looking forward to what we do when Shoal is closed and it's going to Imperial County by rail, by truck? I'm just curious if that even is sitting somewhere as a pending item.
So you know too much about solid waste management, I can see. Very good. So that landfill in Imperial County, the sanitation districts, the idea when they opened that was rail, haul by rail, right? So the idea was in the future, when the landfill capacity in the basin, LA County, for instance, when all the landfill capacity is eaten up and there's not enough to handle the waste from LA County, you put it on a train and take it down to that very large landfill. I think I might be speaking a little, I think it's either 50 years or 100 years. It will take all of LA County's waste at the far, if it's 50 years, 100 it's a huge landfill. So it's not being utilized yet because simply we still have some residual capacity here. And to be honest with you, looking at alternative technologies and the future of solid waste management, there's a lot of promising technologies that hopefully this idea of just burying a hole and burying trash is kind of a little bit outdated from the sense. I mean, we operate a sanitary landfill, so we have liner systems now on new landfills, et cetera. But I do think moving forward, there is probably going to be some other options available to us. And to answer your question, yes, we are actively looking, because the landfill is proposed to close within about 3 years. So we are actively looking at our options.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Going back to what I was trying to understand, in terms of the gross receipts that I think Ms. Antonessian had a formula up. There's the formula was all amounts minus diverted materials minus fees. So all of the amounts include only two things, as far as I understand: the lease payment plus whatever reimbursement we receive for the host fee, right?
That's right.
And then the diverted materials, how is that assessed? Like, let's say there's a truck that is dumping the waste, and I guess there's a procedure in place. They measure, they say, well, this part of it cannot be dumped here. So how can you just, help us understand how does that work?
Sure. So it depends on, the type of truck that comes in. So sometimes someone will drive in a truck and they'll say, I have a lot of, they're disposing, let's say, all of metal, let's say, right? White goods, let's say washing machines and refrigerators. Pretty simple. Metals, they get dumped. The sanitation district's contracts with the company where they take those metals and send them out to a recycler. So that was not deposited in the landfill. So it is diverted. So that would be deducted from the amount that the city would get, that 40%, right? A little more complicated when somebody comes in a truck, happens quite frequently, where they say, oh, I have, green waste. And then he goes to dump the green waste, and in the middle of the green waste, there's all kinds of other stuff, right? So the sanitation districts have staff on site where they will separate that manually. And that's how we keep track of these different diverted materials, so.
So isn't that probably the reason why they are assessing a fee and then they're reimbursing us later on? Like, I heard that one of the recommendations was that we can ask them to give us, not charge us.
Yes.
Like, so if according to the scenario that you explained, that there's a truck that some of the materials supposed to be diverted, technically it's probably not possible for them not to do that because they always need to make sure that their end of the store, like their books are balanced. And
Right.
so is that one of the reasons?
So, very interesting question, because internal audit staff, myself, and our finance department, we talked a lot about this. When did the practice start? And, because, I've been overseeing the land for about 15 years, give or take, and I was always told that their software system did not have an ability, so let's say when trucks are coming through, and let's make it easy, let's say that the MSW rate is $60 a ton, right? So let's say there's a private hauler coming through, $60 a ton, pays the $60, goes through. Glendale truck comes up, really shouldn't pay $60. It should be $60 minus the host fee, right? At 25%, which is really 20% less, right? So I was always told, and I think, Ani, you met with them separately, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was always this assumption that their software system can handle it. Subsequent to this audit, we've actually had meetings with them, and it looks like, we have the June 30th date to implement this. It looks like they're going to be able to implement, finally, not charging our trucks. They're going to be able to, it's the year 2023. It looks like maybe things have improved, and maybe their software system, now there's a way when our trucks come through, we won't be charged 25% to begin with, which will eliminate a big portion of this audit finance, which is going to really help us out.
Exactly. Okay. So that was my actual question on that. The last question, are these payments you mentioned, both the lease payment or all of the revenues are quarterly, right? Everything is assessed quarterly. Also, the fees are assessed quarterly, or the fees are assessed like every time there's a truck there, you have to make the payment?
You mean the tipping fees? Yeah, the tipping fees are every time a truck comes through, they pay the tipping fee.
Okay.
Yes.
And that is reflected anywhere in these calculations?
Basically, what the quarterly payment would be basically a compilation
Of all of those?
all the tipping fees collected. And the reason why it's 33, our contract has quarterly as the required payment to us. That's merely a contractual thing. So like it could have been done monthly, but the contract has it every quarter.
Okay, all right. I don't have any questions. Would you?
I had one last question, and it's just more curiosity related to the agreements and renewals. Operationally, how long, if you did want to move to something else, would it take? Because 60 days might not be enough, or this is really easy and it's kind of plug and play to somebody else?
Yeah, you guys are very educated on solid waste. You've raised a great point. If we're going to give them 60 days notice and say, we want you to walk from the site, that would probably be not a very smart move on our part. We'd have to plan, I think, several, I would say over a year at least ahead, make sure we have something lined up with an operator. You can't just close, have these guys walk and somebody come in within 60 days and start running that landfill. I would say it has to be several months at a minimum, and maybe even up to a year of advanced planning.
So then the second question is, when a renewal is coming up, are we thinking about that 6 months or a year in advance?
So we've talked about that, on a very nebulous kind of, overarching manner. We never really got serious and seriously considered having another operator run it. So when we start getting close to the next October renewal, which will be in 4 years from this year, it's something we can talk about. But again, I think the landfill more than likely will be closed. When I say closed, more than likely it will reach capacity by the next renewal. So once it reaches capacity, that doesn't mean it's closed. We always say closed because it means, the average Joe can't drive his truck up there. But closed from a regulatory point of view is very different. So once it reaches capacity, that's when you start the engineering, and you have to have the approvals from Cal Recycle, the state, the regional board, all these different regulatory bodies, what kind of cover you're going to put on, and that takes a long time after you stop receiving waste. How long does it take? We're estimating between 1 and 2 years. So to answer your question, it's possible that when the next renewal comes, there'll be a need to have the sanitation district still there, putting the final cover and making sure everything's certified, reverting to us, but it won't be open in the sense of accepting trash, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Sure.
Just one last question. I know I had no more questions, but just.
Oh, we like questions, please.
Thank you. Do you know, based on your experience, whether private options are more cost-effective, just generally speaking?
You know, generally, there's arguments you hear. Sometimes I go to these solid waste conferences and you hear, oh, it's always better to go private. And other people say some agencies switch to private and end up paying a lot more. So I think it depends on various factors. So I think that would be something we would consider, but I think it's probably site specific. And again, we're near the end of the life of the landfill. So for our particular point, it might actually end up costing us more because we have to bring somebody in and now they're going to be starting from scratch, designing the final cover, et cetera, and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you.
If I could just add one thing to what Maurice was mentioning, because he did mention it, I just want to make it very clear. We say, when he says the landfill will more than likely reach capacity by 2025, whether it reaches capacity or not, the city council about a year ago, probably at this point, did adopt a resolution basically certifying that that landfill was going to be closed by 2025. So one way or another, we're at the tail end of this. I just want to make that very clear, just in case members of the public are watching it and maybe it didn't come across the way it was intended.
Yeah, so the motion was pretty much, everything is estimated, right? It's all based on tonnage. So the motion was actually written that the current estimate was December 2025. But again, if tonnage goes down, that date could extend because it's, basically based on tonnage. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, thank you for the many wonderful questions and very good answers. Thanks, Maurice, for being here. The next presentation is on the PCI compliance audit. We perform this audit 3 times a year. So some of you probably already heard about this presentation multiple times. We kind of do long version, short version, do the long version at least 1 year. So for the benefit of the new audit committee members, we're going to do a long, full version of the presentation of this audit today. So yeah, go ahead, Natalie.
Good afternoon, Audit Committee members. My name is Natalie Manami Valdivia, and I'm a Senior Internal Auditor within the Internal Audit Division. And I'm here to present to you the results of the payment card industry data security standards audit that was performed this past quarter. So let me start off by defining some acronyms. So basically, the City of Glendale, we accept payments for fees and services, payment cards as a form of payment for fees and services within the city. And as a result, we are subject to the payment card industry's data security standards. So the acronyms are PCI and DSS. I ask you to please take note of those acronyms as we will use them continuously throughout this presentation. So you might ask, who sets the standards for this PCI DSS? And these standards are set by the 5 major credit card companies: MasterCard, Visa, American Express, Discover, and JCB. And together, these PCI DSS requirements are administered by the PCI Security Standards Council. And then you might ask, why do we care about PCI compliance? So the city cares about PCI compliance because we care about protecting our customers' cardholder data. And additionally, it is required to be PCI compliant, and if we are found to not be compliant, we could be subject to fines and penalties, and our ability to accept payment cards could be revoked. And lastly, we could potentially be subject to fines and penalties we could be subject to fines as a result, or we could be subject to liability from the fraudulent charges, and ultimately we could suffer as a city reputational damage. So compliance levels. The PCI DSS compliance level is based on the number of transactions that are processed in a year. So the City of Glendale became a level 2 merchant in 2018 based on the number of transactions that it processed in 2017. For this past calendar year, 2022, the city processed over 715,000 credit card transactions, but we're currently waiting for the card organizations to assess. I'm sorry?
Tally the total.
715,000 total for 2022. But we're currently waiting for the card organization's annual assessment of the city's PCI DSS merchant level, and that's expected to be received shortly. So to ensure PCI DSS compliance, the city has hired an external qualified security assessor, otherwise known as a QSA, to perform an annual assessment and to prepare and submit a formal report on compliance, otherwise known as a ROC, for the city's validation. The ROC is required for level 1 merchants and optional for a level 2. And as I mentioned, the city is currently a level 2 merchant. So the PCI DSS requirements, or PCI DSS is comprised of 6 goals and 12 requirements. So I will quickly walk you through the 6 goals. The first one is to build and maintain a secure network. The second is to protect cardholder data. The third is to maintain a vulnerability management program. The fourth is to implement strong access controls. And the fifth is to regularly monitor and test networks. And the last one is to maintain an information security policy. So as I mentioned, each of the 6 goals has related requirements. So just as an example, for access controls, the requirements are that we restrict access to cardholder data by business need-to-know basis and assign a unique ID to each person with computer access. And then lastly, to restrict physical access to the cardholder data. Now I will walk you through the different types of payment card data. So the first category are those pieces of information that we are prohibited to keep, and that includes chip information. It includes the card identification number. So for American Express, it's located on the front of the card. And for the remaining cards, it's located on the back in the signature line item or signature blank. And then the last item is the magnetic stripe information. The second category of payment information or payment data includes those that are prohibited to be maintained unless it's encrypted, and that includes the primary account number. So to reduce the city's risk, the city's policy is not to maintain any credit card numbers, and in the event that a credit card number is written down to be processed over the telephone or processed later, our policy is to destroy it using a cross-cut shredder immediately after it's been processed. So the last category includes the information that we are allowed to keep, and those pieces of information include the cardholder name and the expiration date. So why do we do these audits? The reason that we do these audits is to demonstrate ongoing compliance and to identify deficiencies timely and prepare for the annual audit that's performed by the external qualified security assessor and to raise awareness. So the next slide is our frequency. So to ensure compliance with the PCI DSS, the city, like I mentioned, has hired the external qualified security assessor to perform the annual assessment. And then additionally, in order to assess ongoing compliance with PCI DSS and help city departments better prepare for the annual assessment, internal audit is tasked with performing the periodic audits of the city's adherence to the PCI policy and the departmental payment card acceptance processing procedures. And the goal is to cover all sites, systems, and calendar tasks once per year before the annual QSA assessment. So as you can see, the city has 19 sites, 5 systems, and 29 tasks. For this audit, this current audit, which is the first for calendar year 2023, we covered 5 sites and 16 tasks. And it covered the period of September 2022 to February 2023. So the objective of this audit was to determine the city's ongoing compliance with the PCI policies and its procedures, and the scope was based upon the PCI DSS in-scope requirements as defined by the external QSA. Our audit process included conducting site visits and verifying the calendar events. And so now I'll walk you through what we looked for when we visited the different sites. So when we went out to in this case, the 5 sites for this audit, we reviewed their updated procedures, and we performed a walkthrough with the site of their credit card processing transaction process and the types of credit card payments received. And so those include in person, over the telephone, and by mail. We verified the employees are aware of the department's PCI policy and that they were aware of the location of the policy for reference purposes. We compared the serial numbers from the devices to the device listing. We reviewed the tamper logs, and then we verified that all employees who handle credit card transactions have completed the PCI DSS training. So for the calendar events, what did we look for in the calendar events? So basically, this is a listing of each of the tasks that have been calendared for each month. And as you can see, as I mentioned earlier, we looked at September 2022 through February 2023. And these included the tasks listed, and for example, include following up on the pending PCI related tasks and PCI DSS compliance team quarterly meeting, basically ensuring that there was documentation that those quarterly meetings were being held, and also verifying that the vulnerability scans were being performed timely. So in summary, during the first audit, there were 5 sites that were reviewed, and out of these 5 sites, there was 1 exception for 1 site noted. And there were no systems included within this current review, and then there were no exceptions identified within the 16 calendar tasks reviewed. So in summary of our findings, as I mentioned, we had one finding, and that was 1 site had 1 new employee who had been processing credit card payments that had not taken the required PCI training. Subsequently, this employee has completed the PCI training, and management has been reminded of the PCI training requirements that are located in our administrative policy manual. This concludes my presentation. I'd like to thank the City Treasurer's Office and the City Department staff for their assistance throughout my audit process, and the Assistant City Treasurer, Gia Murray, and I are here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Committee members, do you have any questions?
Well, the one she addressed, because I was going to say, how come the person was handling the data when they weren't trained yet? And was that because there wasn't a class set up and they delayed but didn't realize they shouldn't have the need to know and access? Or was it just the fact that it's slipped by?
It was an oversight.
Okay. And the question that comes from when I was on the audit committee before, there was a period of time which has been taken care of very well by the department when people would be retired, fired, stop working for the city of Glendale, but the access into the system was not terminated. So you had access points into the system that someone could use if they had the number, even though they weren't the person who had the appropriate legal right to use that number. Has that been totally taken care of? So that there's no way that if today is my last day, that within a reasonable 24, 48 hours, if not immediately, that whole software is locked down and closed. So that there's no way that someone else can open the desk and find that I wrote it somewhere where I shouldn't have, but they can then access the system.
I can answer that if you like. Since then, we've developed, and we can also call upon our finance folks, but since then, we've actually developed a pretty extensive policy related to P cards. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Yes. About the P cards in terms of who can access it. I'm sorry.
P cards or?
Did I miss something? Why don't we let our finance director step in?
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Jason Bradford. I'm Director of Finance and Information Technology. And if I understood your question, I'll put on my IT hat for a minute. Upon termination, and it's access to critical systems, And we have a process in place where my department is notified immediately upon termination. We get that information from typically our human resource department, and we terminate access immediately to all systems, all networks, is removed immediately upon receiving that notification when employees are no longer employed.
So in a sense, it's the HR situation. When you come on board, you get a photograph, you get an ID. When you leave, you turn in your keys, you turn in the ID, and you get that access shut off.
Correct. It's onboarding and offboarding, as you described.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions from the committee members?
Yeah, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
Is the work that we do, is that relied upon by the QSA at all, or is that a truly independent audit at the end of every year?
I believe that's a truly independent audit.
They don't look at what you do and rely at all?
Oh, in terms of relying on our work? No. They do their full independent assessment.
And then the finding that you found, would that be an issue for them? Of course, anything's an issue, but how big of an issue would it have been if that was the only issue the QSA found?
Oh, the issue is what we found, not the QSA found.
No, I understand, but if the QSA found that at the end of the year when they do their audit, how big of an issue would that have been to them?
Generally speaking, any issues they identified for PCI, we'll just need to hurry up and fix it.
You remediated? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'm sure there's a threshold percentage, maybe 5%, whenever they conduct their own audit, right? Which would qualify or disqualify you from meeting their standards. I'm sure there is a threshold or a metric to determine that.
For PCI?
Because I don't think out of a sampling of 17, or was it 18 findings or tasks?
And there were 16 tasks this time, I believe a total of 29 tasks, but there are a total of 19 systems, 19 sites, 5 systems, and 29 tasks.
And one exception, that's very minimal statistically. I mean,
Sorry, for when the QSA conduct their assessment on site, they have their own audit program. And then they, so it's not this task, calendar task, it's for the city, for internal audit, making sure that we are on top of things.
understood.
So those are the things that we do throughout the year, so that will prepare us to pass the annual audit.
Prevention is less expensive than,
Right.
Correct.
I understand. What I was saying is I was giving praise because one exception out of the total pool that we've conducted internally shouldn't be
That's correct.
too
I
much
think
of a, that's pretty good
that's correct.
statistically.
I think the city is, and especially internal audit and the external QSA have done a great job. We've been doing this audit, I believe, since 2019, so the departments have gone through this process for at least 2 years. I think we started 2020. So I think that this program has really helped to educate them and raise their awareness, so we don't have many findings.
One last question.
Sure.
You showed that when we go to $1 million plus, we're at 2. We can then go to 3 or go to 1 with additional. Since the last data said 700,000, which is under $1 million, do we get downgraded to 3 or do we stay at 2?
If I may, I think it was 750,000 transactions, and we don't have the sum of the total amount of the transactions yet, correct?
Well, we have 715,000 transactions, which is a level 3. And based on my reading of the previous reports, I think it was because we were in the COVID times, so the transactions kind of dipped. But in anticipation of them going back up, they've left us as a level 2. And so
I see, I was incorrect in my understanding of it, thank you.
so we're waiting for their assessment based on our 2022 numbers.
Hi, I'm Gia Murray. I'm the Assistant City Treasurer. I can answer this. Even if the city was downgraded to level 3 or level 4, which is the lowest risk, we are still not in the clear of not doing any PCI compliance. We are still obligated to protect cardholder data. It just simply means that if we're level 2 or level 1, we're a high-risk merchant. And that means that when we assess our environment, it needs to be validated by our acquiring bank before the report, which is prepared at the end of the year to go to to the card organization for review, so that they know that we're in compliance. In regards to your question earlier to Natalie, because the city is doing its own audit, at the end of the year, the QSA prepares their own audit, and they prepare a report that goes to to the acquiring bank, who will then file it on behalf of the merchant to go to the card organization for validation. Because they do, the internal audit does their own independent audit, by the time it gets to the end of the year and they do their audit, we're pretty much prepared. And that one item, that one exception, let's just say an employee has not been trained, just needs to be remediated before they complete their report and before they submit it, so we will be fine. So, is there any other questions?
So if I understood the background information, the QSA is required for level 1, it's optional for level 2, but nothing for 3 and 4. Have we done a QSA even if we were at 3 or 4, or just because we might be a very conservative city, or did we only do it because we were at level 2? And level 2, by the way, is optional, so did we have to do it or did we not have to do it?
So the QSA is the qualified service assessor that can do an assessment. For level 4 and level 3, the merchants can do their own assessment. They don't have to hire a qualified assessor. For level 2 and level 1, well, for level 2, it's optional, but we prefer to get a QSA, because at the time when we were a level 4, moved up to level 3, then we moved up to level 2, we were not prepared. It was such a big task. It was a horrendous task even for the, for internal audit, for the city treasurer, and for ISD. So the city decided, let's hire a professional to guide us, to walk us through and hold our hand. And so we've been doing it for about, I'm going to say 3-4 years now. And prior to that, we didn't even do an assessment because it was fairly new to us until we were informed that we just moved up to level 2.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions from committee members? I actually, just a quick question. So historically, if we go back to 2018, that's the year that we were upgraded to a level 2. That's from what I understand, right? And then at the same year, or in 2019, you said that was the first year we did the internal audit of it, and then we hired the QSA.
I believe that in 2019 we hired the external QSA and shadowed them in order to learn the process, and then began the internal audit reviews the following year.
So is that you mentioned something called, I didn't quite catch it, ROC process? So that's the
report on compliance.
Oh, okay. So that's what the QSA prepares every year. Okay. So I guess my natural next question would be, do you see any reason why you want to continue doing the internal audit and then also rely on QSA? Is it like, maybe just have, based on what I see, it's like everything looks like, it's in order and we don't really have any major issues. I remember some of the points that Mr. O'Shaughnessy mentioned came up during our previous year reports. Do you think that we need to keep the two together, like, still have the internal and the QSA, or maybe we can just keep the QSA, not do the internal? But is there maybe a risk analysis or a risk assessment level that requires us to have the both of these systems in place?
I'll take that. That's a good question. And then we do assess risk associated with. So actually, next meeting we're going to talk about our risk assessment and the work plan. So then we'll meet with the department and probably we'll discuss with GIA and then the PCI team and see if this audit is still needed, or it can be, instead of catching all of it, we can do random, selected sites, so we can reduce it from, 3 times quarterly right now, 3 times, 3 quarter, not the last one, because last one is an annual, reduced to maybe once a year.
You mean the internal?
Internal,
part of it? Okay.
internal. Yeah, the external, that we have to do. That's annually in November, December. So then the purpose of our audit is basically to prepare city department to get ready for that audit. We want to make sure we don't have any issues or very little issue when we are being assessed. So but we have done it a few rounds, and then I'm actually surprised that we're still having exceptions. You would think that by now everybody knows you need to be trained, but then still we found something. So,
compared to what we had a couple years ago, I think this is a major progress. I think everybody would agree.
Right.
I guess my last question, I'm just trying to understand this. The QSA, and I think you brought up the question, they do not rely on an internal audit. They do not ask you to provide any documentation before they come in and they do their audit, right? So these are completely separate, 2 separate independent processes.
Actually, when they come on site, conduct their audit, his audit, we shadow them. We shadow him. And the purpose of that is to, get very familiar with the process he use and go through and what he's asking. So then we learn and we will design our audit program based on what how he does it. So then we can have departments better prepared for the annual assessment.
I see. And based on your assessment, we are nowhere close to getting elevated to a level 1 right now. Is that correct?
I don't believe so with the transaction level of 715,000.
That requires 6 million plus, right? Or
I believe so.
One last observation. Would it be fair to say that by maintaining a higher quality even through the COVID period, we are not only continually doing our due diligence because it's less expensive than mitigating, we're also dealing with the fact that if we catch something in the first quarter, it can be cleared so that by the time we're halfway through the year, it's no longer a problem. If we just waited for their audit and didn't do our own audit quarterly, we could find ourselves caught in the conundrum of, this has been happening for 10 months, why didn't you fix it? So my sense is, it is a wiser course of action to continue doing what you're doing, because you're guaranteeing catching any slight deviation or slip up immediately and changing it.
If I may just add to that, I concur with that assessment. And there is precedent to self-regulate, especially of an enterprise of this size, being a city. We're not. It's not a small, mom and pop shop, right? So, having internal checks and and processes in order, which are guided by the qualified. Was it the security assessor who is given that role by the PCI, which is basically put together by the 5 largest groups, right? Do I have it right?
The credit
So,
card agency.
so yeah, I think being that there's precedent, I think internal review is probably the reason why we've only had 1 exception. You know, I'm not playing catch up.
In essence, you become the control.
Yes.
Anyways, I think we are going to have this conversation on our next meeting, right? Because you mentioned about the risk analysis.
Right. Next meeting, we'll present our work plan for next year.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry, any other questions on the committee? Thank you.
All right. So that concludes our presentations for the completed audit projects. Now I will go over the remaining section. Let me see the time. It shouldn't take too long. So section number 2, let me actually bring up the, so we're here now. Okay. So section number 2 provides a brief summary of the project that the team is currently working on. There are 2 projects listed in the table under this section. Both of them are contract compliance audit. So whenever we conduct contract compliance audit, there are 2 things that we're looking for. One is to make sure the vendor is following the contract provisions, and the other aspect of it is to determine whether the city staff is following the city's policies and procedures. And also sometimes there are contract provisions that are required to be performed by city staff as well. So both of these contract compliance audits are with that objectives. And the next section is continuous auditing. So for this past, I mentioned earlier, automation efficiency. So this continuous auditing, basically we utilize software to perform. So basically each of the continuous audit project we do, it's a machine component and there's a human component to it. So we run the script. It's a rule-based script, and then based on the result of the outliers kicked out by the machine, and then the auditors will come in and review to determine if they are true exceptions or just false positives. So this actually very helpful. We're a small shop, and then this technology help us to enhanced our capacity, put it that way. So this past quarter, we ran tests in the following 2 areas. So one is a PCAR tests. Based on the questions from the committee members last meeting, and we added some additional information just to provide a perspective on the impact of these type of audit, because I don't want to say our expectation is we shouldn't find anything, because this is the controls that management already established. So that is kind of we want to see. We don't want to see any exceptions, and then, but how much data we covered. So that's the information that we added to this report based on the feedback I heard from last meeting. So for PCAR test, there are 4 areas covered. There are 11 separate tests we run, and then the data we covered for certain tests is annual. So for a year, we cover PCAR transactions in the amount of 3.8 million, and then the number of transactions is almost 15,000 transactions for a year. And then some of the test number 1 through 3 is on the a quarter from April to June 2022, and that covered $1 million, almost 4,000 transactions. and we found 3 incidents of split payments. Two of them are the individual split, which means the individual cardholders split one transaction into 2 separate payment to bypass the single transaction limit. And the third incident is 2 employees pay 1 invoice so that the because if one person's limit is not enough to cover the full invoice. So the recommendations we made to the departments that have these exceptions is basically a reminder there are other options for them when they face this kind of situation, which means that they want to buy something that is higher than their transaction limit. So they can ask someone else in their department with a higher limit to make that purchase, or they can set up a PO, or they can just do and the last option is to request an increase of their limit if they are routinely make large amount purchases. And the next one is the user access control testing, Active Directory. So earlier, I think our Director of Finance and IT mentioned that the onboarding, offboarding process, and this is exactly what we're testing. We want to make sure that the access to the separated employees, their AD account, are revoked timely upon their separation. So next, let's see. So the next 3 sections, 4, 5, and 6, are all related to quarterly follow-up. So let's see. Where is my... So section 4 basically provides a very brief summary on the follow-up activities for the past quarter, how many projects with how many outstanding items, and how many items remain outstanding at the end of the quarter. And then per the committee's request, not this current, I mean, in the past, they would like to see some additional information, and there are 2 pieces. First is the outstanding priority 1 audit items. So in this quarter, we have 1. It has been on in this report for a while. As I mentioned a couple times, the implementation of this item involve external parties, the school district, but progress has been made, and the attorneys are drafting and finalizing an MOU, and hopefully we'll have that signed sooner than later. And then the next one is the Shell Canyon Landfill JPA audit that Ani presented earlier. That we have 1 priority 1 items from that audit, so that's listed here. And then section 6 is the outstanding audit items and meeting certain audit committee discussion criteria. So basically, I talked to Mr. Berlin at the welcome meeting, explain what this is. So basically, the committee passed resolution number 2, and then so listed 3 events that the director of that department will be invited to the committee meeting to explain why certain items have not been implemented or deemed a decision was made to not implement, or if any items have been outstanding for more than 3 years, and then we will stop follow-up on those items and they deem not implemented. So that is follow-up. And then last but not least is the advisory services that internal audit participated in. So we have this standing 3-team assignment. One is the Investment Policy Advisory Committee, PCI Compliance Team, and Energy Risk Management Committee. So we participated in their routine meetings, monthly or quarterly. And just give you an example for this past quarter at the PCI compliance team meeting, we shared our audit plan with the team and then confirmed our audit scope and et cetera. So that's the table that Natalie shared at the beginning of her presentation. So we shared basically our audit schedule with the team. So that kind of give you an idea what we're talking about. So that concludes my report for this quarter. Any questions?
Thank you so much. Any questions from committee members?
I'll go after you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so when we say P cards here, is that truly just a procurement card, or does that include T&E, travel and entertainment?
I think we're just a P card.
P card, okay. And so when the 3 issues were identified, did you find out why they split the payments? Like, I understand that they didn't have enough level or what have you, but like, how did they even know to do that?
How do they know they can do this trick?
Or how would 2 people know that, hey, let's get together so we can pay this higher invoice that we don't have enough for? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah. Do you know?
So just to give you some perspective, these are very minor exceptions when you consider magnitude. And most of the time, I think employees just need to buy something that they need for their operation. And sometimes it's quicker to use a P card. And we advise departments if they need to increase their single purchase limit that they can do that.
Thank you.
On item 6, when you're saying changing the status of an audit to non-implemented, is there anything in that breakdown of determining 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, where an audit has been delayed because it was of moderate importance, but something in the middle of the year all of a sudden became critically important? So with only so many staff, so many hours on an audit, and so many days in the week and everything, sometimes an audit gets pushed back, so it's no longer pertinent to the year that it was originally assigned. Is there any way to write that in there, or it's just that it's not implemented? There's no footnote that explains, we didn't do the fire department because we had something much more critical at the airport.
Sorry, I guess I skipped it a little bit. So these are the outstanding audit items from the past completed audit. So these are our recommendations. So basically, for example, Ani's audit has 4 recommendations.
Okay.
Yeah, so we track them, and then on the quarterly basis, we check in with the department, what's the progress made, and has it been implemented, and if they are, then we'll reduce them from the, the number 4 is how many being implemented, right? So here, so the number will reflect it in here, how many have been implemented, how many have been outstanding, and versus remaining.
Yeah, I was thinking in a different way. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Are there any other comments, questions? No? So let's move on to the next item.
Item number 7, Audit Committee or staff comments.
Are there any comments? No?
Oh,
Let's-
sorry, go ahead.
Is there a particular homework, is the word I use, like I read everything that you sent me with the link, and then I did it again this morning so that I had my little notes. on what I wanted to make sure got asked, or if it was already answered, we don't have to ask it. Is there anything besides the ethical training, which we took care of, that we need to be aware of, or is there anything we should be doing paraprofessionally to prepare us more on any changes that have occurred with the city?
Lucy.
I'm not sure exactly how to answer that. I'm thinking.
Okay.
I'm thinking from the last time that you were on this committee, not much has changed. I think the only thing that maybe you can do to keep up with things that are happening would be to just follow what's happening at the council level. We're currently going through our budget preparation process for the following year. We'll be publishing this year's CAFR in a few months. I know it feels like it's a long time from now, but it's probably going to come up. You can look at the previous year's certified annual financial reports, if that's of any interest to you to kind of catch up from where you were. But in terms of specifics or tasks that you need to take on, there really isn't much. If there is anything that comes across your mind, things that you may be interested in, you can feel free to reach out to Jessie, her staff, or myself, and we'll be happy to walk you through it.
I will say this is delightful.
The popular annual
To be able
financial
to look
report.
at this for quick and easy answers versus the ring binder. I found one that I still had at home in my bookcase.
Yeah, we still publish it every year.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to make a quick comment to welcome our new audit committee members. First is Mr. Edwin Belen, and thank you for volunteering your time to serve at this committee. You have a lot of experience in financial reporting, in compliance, auditing, and those are very valuable to this committee, to the city as well. So I, want to welcome you on behalf of my team and look forward to working with you in the next 8 years, right? And then also I'd like to welcome Mr. Thomas Shaughnessy back to the committee. And you had to take a break, but welcome back. And also your experience in HR, payroll, and many other areas will be very valuable to us. So just welcome back.
Okay. Yes. Okay, let's move on to the next item.
Item number 8, new business.
Is there any new business? No. I just wanted to make a quick comment, and I'm not exactly sure if this is part of new business, but I remember when I was first joining this committee, we had a presentation, if I'm not wrong, Ms. Varpatian gave that presentation regarding the roles and responsibilities of the Audit Committee. And I realized that it's been, several years. I don't recall if we ever had any other presentation like that. Would it be possible maybe to just do that quickly in one of our upcoming meetings, maybe next one or the one after that?
Sure. I think Committee Member Khashoggi, I think you're probably remembering a Brown Act presentation I did.
Yes.
We typically do that.
And then I remember you gave us a 2-pager or a 1-pager that clearly listed our roles and responsibilities.
We can certainly do that, but I think there's a different process that we use to roll that out now for every committee. So I'll check with the city attorney, make sure that we're in line. I think we're systematically offering that to every committee that has new members. So sometimes we do that ahead of, individually with each commissioner or committee member. Sometimes we do a full presentation for the full body. So we'll look into that and bring it back.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions under new business? No? Let's move to the next item then.
Item number 9, adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
I can second that.
Second.
Thank you. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much. Do I have to announce the time too? That's okay. Thank you.
What you see